It's Fionna Gossling from Royal LePage Real Estate Services Limited in Oakville. And I just wanted to do a really quick video to talk to you about the cost to keep in mind when you're purchasing real estate. A couple of things. There's been a lot of buyers who have been sitting on the sidelines waiting for this market to cool down a little bit. And as it is starting to, and as there's more product coming on the market and buyers have more to choose from, it's a nice time, if you have been waiting on the sidelines, that you can actually take your time, look at some houses, figure out the market value of those houses, make a reasonable offer, have things like a finance condition and a home inspection condition. So it's really, it's back to a nice market for people who are trying to get into it. I recently had a conversation with a friend who had just bought a house in another city, and they were saying this very smart person was saying, you know, they still didn't fully understand all of the closing costs that was involved. So the process from when they found the house that they wanted to buy, and all of the money that followed after that. So I wanted to make a really quick video and let people know and talk about some of those closing costs that you need. First of all, before you start looking for a house, you're probably going to be pre-qualified. So you know how much you can spend. And you've probably worked with a mortgage broker or a bank representative to tell you how much you can afford and what you would be qualified to purchase. But that's only one piece of the puzzle. So you know what you can shop up to or what you can spend. But then there's a bunch of other costs that you need to have money for set aside. And before you start looking, you should, in Oakville, have 5% of the purchase price put aside and ready to go. And that is going to be your deposit. And it needs to be made at the time you get an accepted offer. So that means you write a contract, you make an offer to the seller, and you negotiate that contract. And at the time the buyer accepts the seller's counter or the seller accepts the buyer's offer, within 24 hours, usually, you need to produce a bank draft that will be held in trust and credited towards your down payment. But that 5% needs to be produced within 24 hours of getting an accepted offer. So it's not good enough to have that money in RESPs somewhere or tied up in the stock market. You need to have it in an account ready to go. So that 5% is going to be credited towards your purchase price, towards the down payment. It's held in a real estate broker's trust account, and there's very limited situations where that money can be released. So you don't need to worry about the seller doesn't get it, the buyer can't take it back, the real estate brokerages have no access to it. There's very limited, narrow set of circumstances where that could be released from a trust account. Then you have your down payment. That's the money that you are paying to buy the house. So if, let's say, your house is $500,000 and you have $100,000 to put down, you'll have had the money that you've put towards your down payment, your 5% is down. But then right before closing, when you go in to meet with the lawyer, you're going to give them the balance of that $100,000, usually through a bank draft or through a transfer, and your lawyer will tell you how they want to receive those funds. But that's your down payment. The rest of the money is the money that you're mortgaging. The balance of your purchase price is the money that you are getting from the bank. And at the time you buy your house and you work with your mortgage representative to get you the loan for the balance of the purchase price, they'll sort out getting that money. So in this example, $400,000 of mortgage funds from the mortgage payer, the mortgage holder, to your lawyer. Then you also have, in Ontario, we have the Ontario Land Transfer Tax. That's unavoidable. It is charged on every residential purchase. Every time a property is registered or there's a change of title, that is charged. It's an unavoidable tax. And that is, it's a sliding scale, but a quick calculation is your purchase price times 2% minus $3,525. And that's going to give you what you're going to owe in Ontario land transfer tax. And that's the lawyer who collects that as well. So this is all money that will be sorted out at the time that you go in to meet with your lawyer. If you're buying new construction, or if you're buying a house that was taken totally down to the ground and it's brand new, you're going to pay HST on that. So on new construction only, HST is applicable, and that's 13%. It doesn't happen in resale markets, so there's no HST if you're buying a resale house, but if it's brand new, you're buying from a developer, you're going to need to factor that in as well. If, in my example of the $500,000 purchase with $100,000 down, we had 20% down. So there was no CMHC insurance applicable on that purchase. But if you didn't have $100,000 down, or if you have less than 80%, that's not what I'm trying to say. If you have less than 20% to put down, then you're going to be charged CMHC insurance, so high ratio insurance. Again, there's nothing you can do to get around that, and you should talk to your mortgage broker about how much that is. And it's my understanding that there's different ways you can pay that, either in one lump sum or rolled into your monthly payments. But you're going to have to pay that. So if there's anything you can do to get to that 20% down mark, you're going to save quite a lot of money, depending on your purchase price. You're also going to have to pay the lawyer when you go in. So a lawyer, the realtor is going to negotiate the deal for you and walk you through that process. But once you have a firm deal, a lawyer in Ontario is going to come in and convey the property. So they're going to move it from the seller's name into the buyer's name. And they investigate title, and they do a whole number of other things. But in order to do that, they charge a fee, and it depends on the house, and it depends on any number of services. But I would budget around $1,700 to $2,000 plus HST for that process. They'll probably sell you title insurance at that point as well. That's included in that $1,700 to $2,000, and they can advise you on that. But it's certainly something that I have always bought in any real estate purchase that I've participated in, and there've been a lot. You're going to have a home inspection on the property. So at the time that you get your accepted offer and you want to inspect the property and make sure you know what you're buying, you're going to hire a home inspector. That's probably around $500 plus HST to have a qualified, good home inspector who can come out, look at the property for you, tell you what kind of shape it's in, let you know what kind of costs you should expect coming down the pipeline. Let you know if they see anything that's going to be hugely expensive or structurally wrong with the house. So in almost every case, you really should be having a home inspection just to know what you're buying. In certain situations, certainly when I'm helping people buy detached homes, I always ask for a survey. A lot of the time, a survey does not exist. You don't need a survey to close on the home, particularly if you have bought the title insurance, but you do want to know if you're doing a renovation, if you're adding on a deck, if you're putting in a pool. You want to know where those property lines are. And in order to do that, in order to do any kind of construction or major renovation to the outside, you're going to need a property survey. So we ask for one. Oftentimes I'll go to the town or the municipality and see if they have a survey on title that would show us the actual lot lines. But if they don't, and down the road you want to do some kind of build or put on a deck, then you will have to have a survey, and that can cost between $1,500 and $2,000 plus HST. So that's not necessarily a closing cost, but it is something to keep in mind if that is part of your plan. And then you have all of your other moving costs, like transferring all of your services, getting movers, painters, cleaners, all of the rest of it. It's always a bit more expensive than you think it's going to be. So just to keep those costs in mind. Your lawyer at the time of closing the property will create a statement of adjustments for you. And that is basically a ledger that shows all of the credits to the buyer and the credits to the seller. And then they work that out, and they'll tell you the exact amount prior to you going in to sign all of the paperwork right before you close on the property. And that'll cover things like if the seller has prepaid some property taxes and they've paid for days that they don't live in the house, then that amount, and the lawyer will break it down by the day, will be the buyer, you will have to pay the seller back for those days that they've paid for the property taxes and they are not living in the house. Same thing goes for oil tanks. We don't see it that much here because oil tanks aren't that prominent. But if there was an if the home was still heated by oil tank, then they would do a reading and make adjustments based on that. So all of that will be factored in your statement of adjustments. And that's pretty much it. I think the biggest one that people sometimes aren't told about or don't remember if they're doing a second purchase or a third purchase and they haven't moved in a while is that Ontario land transfer tax. And it's probably the biggest. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to ask, reach out, send me an email. And yeah, I'm always happy to answer any questions that you might have. Take care.